Everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right. The meeting is called to order. Bobby, would you do roll call, please?
Lucy,
Present.
Sharp.
Here.
I see Shannon and I see Troy. And is Sally a
Present.
visitor? Present, okay. Jack and them aren't here?
Yep. I'm
Oh,
here.
okay, I didn't see you.
What's
Am I
that?
missing anybody?
Oh.
Oh, there you are. And James, okay.
Here.
And Matthew. Okay,
You have,
I'm having computer issues this evening if you can't figure that out.
you have 9 of us so far?
Scott, Sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Not Scott. Well, Scott's not really here.
5, 6. I only have 6.
Okay, we got Troy, myself, Sally, Shannon, Matt, James, Jack, Sharp, and you.
Mhm.
That's 9, isn't it? 3.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any citizen comments? Well, we welcome Sally Winder. Nope. Not
Welcome,
yet.
Sally.
Wendy, what kind of review are you intending to do this evening on the zoning ordinance?
Troy?
I'll give a presentation, Sally, and then really this will start the public review and comment period. So this was the first meeting of the Planning Commission, and then tomorrow would be the calendar day to start the 45-day public review and comment period. So today was more of an announcement to kind of let the public know that the draft document that the task force has prepared is now out for review and comment.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Bobby, we don't have our April minutes. Did I miss that?
No, that's what it was taking me so long to get online tonight. I got a new computer and the minutes are on my old one.
Okay.
And it wasn't cooperating at all.
All right, cool. We'll catch up with that in June.
Okay.
All right. So right to old business, discuss the adoption of a new zoning ordinance. Troy,
All right, Scott, if you don't mind, allow me to share my screen. So as soon as I can start sharing, then I can start the presentation. There we go. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So good evening, everybody. My name is Troy Truax with Michael Baker International, consultant to the Borough of Newville, working here over the last year plus to work with a group of members, including those on the call and others, also including representation from the county. Planning Director Kirk Stoner also was involved in providing technical input to this. Also, Sally Widener is on the phone, zoning hearing board solicitor for the borough, also had an opportunity to provide input. And then we worked through addressing any comments that we received preliminarily. But tonight, for the public's information and for the Planning Commission, this will be kind of the announcement to the public that there is a draft zoning ordinance and zoning map that will be out for public review and comment over the next 45 days. The clock will start tomorrow and go through, I believe, June 26th is the date. We have that confirmed here in the presentation. But nevertheless, I wanted to give a high-level overview to the Planning Commission through this presentation of the document. So we can start to. So the purpose and need, the current zoning ordinance for the borough was last updated in 2000. So it's well over 20 years old. The zoning map has been amended since, and the last amendment was in 2016. And the borough also, through its comprehensive planning process work, through the regional COG, which I'll talk about in a minute, and also the county comprehensive plan, which is adopted in 2017, there really needed to be a need for a comprehensive rewrite of the current zoning ordinance and map. Also, too, the borough is undergoing with an economic development committee evaluating different opportunities, for example, like the reuse of the former ribbon mill, which is now under a new owner, and opportunities exist there. So trying to reflect the changes in land use and other types of needs to include the requirements for the update of the ordinance. The borough has the authority for planning and zoning under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, Act 247 of 1968. Article 6 specifically addresses the requirements for zoning, and then therein it specifies the governing body of each municipality, in accordance with the conditions and procedures set forth in this act, may enact, amend, and repeal zoning ordinances to implement comprehensive plans and to accomplish any of the purposes of this act. Further provisions of zoning. Zoning must be enacted consistent with the community development objectives specified in this case, the borough's adopted comprehensive plan, which is the Western Cumberland County Joint Municipal Plan, which was adopted back in 2007. And then also too, we reflected on the Cumberland County Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in 2017. So those set forth various types of future land use ideals, goals, community development goals and objectives that we took into consideration for the zoning update. So the process, the borough went out for a request for proposal to hire professional assistants back in December of 2019. They chose Michael Baker International in February of 2020. We began our task force committee meetings, if you will, on April of last year, and we concluded those meetings here just this past March. Members of that committee were Council President Scott Penner, Planning Commission member Jack Erickson, Chair of the Planning Commission Lucy DeSemna, Planning Commission Solicitor Matthew McKnight, County Planning Director Kirk Stoner, Borough Council and Planning Commission member Michael Crouch, and Newville Zoning Hearing Board member Jason Malott. So again, we met monthly and also had inputs from Borough Manager Fred Potzer as well. Today is the mark of the Planning Commission meeting, May 12th. This will begin kind of the adoption process, but through that process, the public is invited and encouraged to take advantage of the 45-day review and comment period, which for the clock will start tomorrow, May 13th, and it'll run through June 26th. And then further, the borough is planning to, as it goes through its adoption process that will continue beyond the Planning Commission with Borough Council, they're planning to issue notices through the water and sewer bills. July 14th, as we anticipate the Planning Commission during that meeting to review and consider any comments that were received in the 45-day review period. July 27th, we're going to move those, the anticipated process is to move those comments beyond Planning Commission into the council. They'll receive any current version of the zoning ordinance at that time, and then council will hold a planned work session on August 4th to further consider and discuss the zoning ordinance, and then anticipated to hold a public hearing on the proposed zoning ordinance to consider its adoption on August 31st. We're hoping to have, planning to have an in-person meeting of that public hearing at the Borough Park, the Lower Pavilion, and if weather prevents us from holding it at that location, the borough has already reserved the Zion Church location as the backup spot for that hearing. So just an overview of the zoning ordinance itself. The purpose of the ordinance basically is to guide future growth and development by regulating land uses within the borough of Newville for the improvement of the health, safety, comfort, morals, and general public welfare of its citizens. directly ties back with borough code requirements in terms of its requirements for the protection of health, safety of its citizens and general welfare. The ordinance itself, the current ordinance that the borough is operating under has many articles. It's the document again was adopted back in 2000. What we've tried to do is reflect on looking at that document and trying to consolidate and update some of the provisions. So the current draft or the proposed draft has 6 articles. Article 1, general zoning provisions, addresses the administrative enforcement procedures under the zoning ordinance itself, discusses and addresses the zoning hearing board and its powers, and also provides for special exceptions, etc., that's specified in the ordinance related to uses. Article 2 establishes the proposed zoning districts in the borough, and also it incorporates by reference the zoning map, which I'll show you here. Article 3 specifically addresses zoning uses, a comprehensive section that lays out a specific table of uses and identifies them by the type of use and its permitted use within each zoning district, or where it's not actually, those uses may not be permitted at all in certain districts, if you will. Supplemental regulations support, augment the zoning uses. They regulate other types of provisions under zoning, such as, for example, fences or swimming pools or other accessory structures, etc., that are regulated. Typically, anything that's not regulated under Article 3 would then be regulated under Article 4. Article 5 is a new section on signs, comprehensive section addressing the location, placement of signs. It's what we call a content neutral regulation, where for First Amendment rights, we're not allowed to, through the Supreme Court ruling, we're not allowed to regulate content of any signs or flags, etc. And then finally, every ordinance should include a good set of definitions that defines various terms used throughout the ordinance. Okay. Existing and proposed zoning districts. On the left-hand side of the screen is the current zoning map of Newville Borough. As you can see, there's multiple zoning districts. In the center, the orange is the village zoning district. The yellow is R2, medium density residential. Interspersed among that yellow R2 are the commercial and industrial districts. Those are identified in the lighter in the purple and the lighter red. And one thing that we evaluated through this update on the right-hand side is the proposed borough zoning map. We largely looked at the village zoning district and recommended that that be enlarged, be expanded, given the fact that some of the neighboring lots along the various streets are in similar size and proportion, but also it related to, if you can see the red outline, that is the borough's designated historic district as approved and listed on the National Register of Historic Districts. So we also reflected on the boundary of that historic district to consider where the village zoning would apply. We largely stayed true to the current village zoning, and again, it reflected kind of a similar development pattern of uses that are currently present under the current zoning map. The mixed use, the green area, we took consideration of the fact that there's a lot of existing residential uses, but within those residential uses, there's compatible various types of commercial or other uses. And also by policy right now, Borough Council has the ability to approve by conditional use any proposed commercial uses within those areas. So what we started to see over time is that there started to be more of an integration of commercial uses in with those residential uses, and also considering the existing industrial uses. The committee recommended that to the Planning Commission that those areas be considered mixed use areas, given their current state and also how they have, again, various uses existing or coexisting compatibly next to each other. And then finally, the R1, the green in the south area of the borough, the larger lots, we retain that as existing low density residential. There's not a lot of change there, but quite a difference in terms of the lot size and the separation of that area from the borough by the creek that flows through the town. We thought that that was an opportunity to make that a distinct area and keep that currently zoned low density residential. So really tried to reflect, what is actually going on from a land use perspective in the borough, and also considering what existing uses occur, and also thinking about future uses is how the new proposed zoning map was crafted. So just an overview, the low density residential is intended for low density. Again, that's the yellow area on the map. For 6 dwelling units per acre as the densities, single and 2 family dwelling units with or without centralized utilities. Again, that's consistent with your current zoning. The mixed use district is intended to uphold and preserve the current compatible mixture of residential, commercial, and light industrial uses that meet the daily living, retail, and business service and employment needs of local and area residents of the borough. And also this area collectively contributes to the borough's quality of life and economic strength. So again, a number of industrial uses that currently exist, but also, for example, the ribbon mill building that's now being adaptively reused for a new user owner of that building, plus possible other opportunities that have been explored by the borough's Economic Development Committee. So those are some of the factors that we took into consideration for that mixed use area. The Village District, again, is intended to preserve the quality and historic character of the borough and provide for a mix of compatible uses that uphold the compact character of the traditional village. So again, that core is really kind of elevated by the fact that your historic district boundary is largely reflective of that orange area. And that really led to the thinking of how we would expand the current village zoning district to this area that's shown here in orange on the draft zoning map. There's also some additional, as we talk about the historic resource overlay district, again, that district is proposed here in the green hatch. If you can follow my hand icon, this is generally the area that it encompasses. So it's almost all of the village area, with the exception of a pocket here to the west and out by the mill. There's a pocket there that's not covered by the historic district. And then to the southeast along the Cumberland Rail Trail, which is a historic resource. And also this is the area, the ribbon mill. These properties here are also included in the borough's historic district that it's being proposed for the zoning ordinance. So there's the historic district of the National Register. Then the borough also chose to, for the zoning elements, chose to extend that overlay boundary to this area too, along the Cumberland Rail Trail. So the borough, this protects historic resources within the borough, created under the municipality's planning code authority. Applicable to the regulations for the overlay are applicable to additions, alterations, and rehabilitation. Also addresses demolition, removal, and relocation of structures within that historic district. One thing we want to highlight, this is not regulated under the Pennsylvania Historic District Act. So therefore, we're not establishing an historical architectural review board as oversight. We chose not to do that. It was a strategic decision not to have that level of scrutiny placed on residents, simply trying to protect the resources that are there under the MPC's guidance and authority. The second overlay is floodplain overlay. This is regulated through the National Flood Insurance Program, and then also created under the authority of the municipality's planning code as well, and the Floodplain Management Act of in Pennsylvania. The boundary follows the designated floodplain areas of the creek. You can start to see that in the stream areas here in blue. That's where the overlay boundary for the floodplain overlay district would apply. And what it does is simply designates the area where the borough's floodplain management ordinance, which is a separately adopted ordinance, apply. So we're incorporating that separate floodplain management ordinance into the zoning ordinance by reference, and the overlay district designates on the zoning map where those particular regulations apply, in addition to the underlying either mixed use or village or wherever the underlying district applies within that floodplain area. Article 3 again designates the various uses and defines those uses. Unique to this zoning ordinance is that uses are grouped into general categories such as principals uses, and then further broken down into subcategories such as residential and lodging, civic and institutional, and specific use types are also defined. So again, this is just a snapshot of the beginning of the table. As you can see, under principal uses, we have sub-districts starting with residential and lodging, civic and institutional. And once you have a chance to look at the ordinance, there's additional categories of various uses contained therein that ordinance. And then also to by zoning district, here we're also regulating where those uses are either permitted by right, special exception, SE, or conditional use. If it's a blank cell, then it's not a use that's permitted in that particular zoning district. And then this defines again, elaborates more on what that particular zoning Article 3 looks at again, principal uses. And the bulleted categories are all the subcategories: residential and lodging, civic and institutional, open space uses, retail uses, service uses, adult uses, employment uses, infrastructure uses, and industrial uses. And then in addition to those principal use categories, we also have a section on accessory uses and also temporary uses. So the adoption schedule, again, tonight, Planning Commission meeting is to present this draft zoning ordinance. Again, it's draft, it's out for public comment, present it to the Planning Commission. This is again being recommended by the task force that we talked about. So this starts the adoption process under the municipality's planning code. Starting tomorrow, May 13th, would begin that 45-day public review period that runs through June 26th. And then again, Planning Commission intends to meet on the 14th at its regular scheduled meeting in July to consider those comments received through that 45-day public review and comment period. And then they anticipate moving it on to Borough Council on the 27th. And August 4th, Council plans to have a work session to discuss the proposed ordinance, and then proposal on August 31st to hold a public hearing on the ordinance to consider its adoption at that time. And then any questions or comments? So again, the draft ordinance is available, and also the zoning map is available for public inspection, both online. So if you go to the borough's website, it's right on the homepage. There's a link both for the draft ordinance and map. And also Borough Office, there's a document and the map available there for public inspection at the Borough Office on West Street. Written comments may be submitted to Borough Manager Fred Potzer. He also is available by telephone Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And also available, you may contact him with your questions or comments at newvilleboroughmanager@comcast.net. Also, is he accepting any written comments by the postal mail at the borough's mailing address of 4 West Street, Newville, PA. And then again, we're looking for the deadline to receive those comments by June 26th, 2021. So Lucy, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments?
Lucy, this is Sharp. I'd like a hard copy. Is that a possibility?
I believe you can get one at the borough office.
They have them there.
I believe so, yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Anything else? Sally, you're muted.
There, am I not muted now? Okay. I picked up a copy at the borough office. When are you going to do your editorial typographical error corrections?
We're going through that right now, Sally.
I've gone through about half of the pages, and I have a lot of corrections that need to be made. And
Okay.
there's also sections that need to be taken out because they're repeated later. And in the
Okay.
first couple pages, they're not legally correct. Later on, they are correct. And then there are some references to what the zoning officer can do, but the zoning officer does not have police powers. So there's some things he's not permitted to do by law that should be changed. And
Okay.
that really doesn't need to come up at any public comment. That needs to be changed ahead of time.
Okay, Sally, we'll definitely going through the document too. I know there's been a number of eyes on it, so we'll take another careful look at any typos or errors, but I'll also rely on Matt to help with any legal
Yeah.
review. I know
Sally,
that-
if you want to, we could connect and we can go over it together and you can, I'd be happy to look over the stuff that you think is incorrect and needs to be changed. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So we can certainly do that, in the next 2 weeks or so, if that works for you.
Yeah. Yes, I think that needs to be done before it goes any further.
Okay.
And there's just some general comments like that I have about how the ordinance is organized. And in general, I think one thing that needs to be addressed before you take a lot of public comment and go any further with it is the historical overlay language. There's a lot of language in there about demolition and alteration and that sort of thing. And I understand the aim is to control that so that buildings and structures and uses are in essence preserved. But there's a paragraph in there about additions or alterations, and it refers to some standards from the Department of Interior, but it doesn't really give the ordinance reader any real outline of what it is that you expect as the standards for review.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot, Sally, also with PHMC consultation on that. And I know we had a lengthy discussion on that particular one. So again, like Matt said, we'd be happy to, set up a special call with you to go through your comments, et cetera, and talk about that further.
Okay.
So I don't know, Matt, if you want to coordinate with Sally and get some
Sure.
dates, then we can go from there.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that, and probably by conference call is just as easy as trying to meet with pieces of paper flying around.
I would agree.
But I had some general comments like that, but I also had some specific edits, and I didn't know how you were handling those.
Well, we can, I think the best, Sally, we can just set up a time to go through, the sections and your comments. And I don't know, Shannon, if you want to be part of that too. I know you've gone through it as well. But, I think whatever's easiest to get those comments at least received and considered. I know you've had some previous comments that Matt and I went through and took a careful look at. So we'll do the same here. But I think if we can have a call set up to talk through the comments and make sure, I think we just need to make sure we're on the same page. So I think having an online conversation so we can go through those comments and then have a complete understanding of how we collectively agree to resolve those comments. Because I would rely on, also, Matt, you as a legal expert, Sally, you as a legal expert, to, collectively help agree on what's the best for the borough.
And just keep me in the email loop and I'll join wherever and whenever.
Thanks,
Okay.
Shannon.
Oh, well, thank you, guys. You worked that out quite well. I appreciate it. Okay. Anything else? I have a question. I have not gone to the borough website to look at the document. I meant to do that before tonight's meeting, but didn't happen. Do the hyperlinks work on that, Troy?
I honestly, I did not check myself because I believe Fred posted those, but I'm just going to go to the website right now. I went online and checked. The link that I have in my PowerPoint is right to the actual the borough's website. So, yep, the zoning ordinance document link works, and the proposed zoning map link also works, Lucy.
So, but if I recall correctly, we were going to be able to do hyperlinks within the document. Did that happen?
The document itself, if you have the bookmark capability, but I think the way that the PDF is shown, you should be able, if you have like the Adobe Reader, you should be able to have like the bookmarks where it has the table of contents you can click on, etc. You can also, if you go to the actual document, you can click on the table of contents and it's the active link. So the table of contents itself is actively hyperlinked to the specific sections.
Wonderful. Good.
So again, it just depends on the technology, but if you have just basic, I'm here just looking at here on my Google Explorer type of web browser, and yeah, you can hover over any section of the table of contents. It allows you to click on it and it takes you right to that section.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Bobby, did you see that Ed is on?
Yes, I added him on the members. Yes.
Cool. All right. That takes care of old business. Now we can still start the 45-day thing tomorrow. Is that correct? Even though Sally and Matt and Troy and Shannon.
Yeah, because these are still, this is a comment period. So there's a lot to, people can come in with their suggestions, corrections, changes, what have you.
Perfect. Good. All right. Okay. That's so much for old business. Let's any new business. Okay.
Lucy, I'm going to sign off then, okay? And then Matt, I'll look forward to getting together with you and Sally here.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night, everybody.
Troy.
Thank you, Troy.
I don't think we have any new business right now. I do want to maybe at our next meeting get into a parking survey and talk with Jack about that. See if we can do something to further that. Fred sent an email that said there's a brewery that has applied for a license, a liquor license. Did anybody else get that?
Sally, he put in a land use permit as well. Yes. Yeah, I have not approved it as of yet. I'm kind of waiting right at the moment to see what happens next Tuesday. First off, the license that he has to put in, that he has put in and applied for, takes between 5 and 6 months. And the designation of what he wants, he could challenge us on if we deny it, even if we stay as a dry town. But at the same time, if his current, how we end up determining or how I end up defining the business, whether it's a restaurant or a manufacturer, makes a big difference in the zoning and the applicability there. And they could be defined as both, either, and I'm kind of hesitant to do any right at this moment. I'm playing the waiting game for about a week.
Sure, absolutely. But it's starting to happen. We need parking for businesses. You can't, we need parking. And I don't know, Jack, if we could do anything to help the EDA do a parking survey, a parking study to see if our landlords are following parking. I think that it's, and Shannon, correct me here, you can have only so many cars per apartment. Is that correct? How's that roll?
To go off the top of my head, I could tell you that for an apartment, it goes by beds. So when you start off with a single bed bedroom, you need to have two spaces. Once you go up to 2 bedrooms, it's 2.5, and then 3 bedrooms, it adds on to that. And I could get it out if you need to go into spacing, exact, but that's where your current is. The new, when we go through the new ordinance, it's, we got rid of the halves a lot and went more into the 2, 3, and so on and so on.
And those
It
are all
is mostly
street-
in residential. The commercial is not right now is exempt from a lot of the parking requirements in the village district.
but those parking requirements are the off-street parking,
Yes.
correct? So to find out, just to see where we are with parking availability. I know when Jack, I don't know if we discussed this at the last meeting, but when Jack and I were out getting petitions, signatures for the ballot questions, parking was an issue, particularly at the red light. The one woman was like, well, if they painted it all yellow and took our parking spaces away, that's just for a person that lives there. But we have a lot of yellow on our streets that takes away parking. So I don't know, Jack, how can the planning commission help with that?
Well, why don't we have a conversation? This is this parking issue
I lost you.
has been one of the major preoccupations of the EDA. Can you hear me?
Now, yes.
Okay. So the EDA is paying a lot of attention to parking, primarily from the perspective of if we're going to try to bring new businesses in, where our customers going to park. So there, Chris Galato, who's the project director, has been working with the EDA board of directors to try to come up with some ideas about this. But let's have a conversation about, I mean, your idea about a survey is a good one. But there's a lot of conversation. The problem, as we all know, is there just is not a lot of parking here. And when you put any constraints on people's parking, they get very, very upset. So you have to find some middle ground here that works. One of the things we're looking at is, are there properties that are blighted and not redevelopable in their current, under their current ownership? That could be. So we're looking at that. And then, but other than that, it's hard to create any new space. You got to take something from somebody to give it to somebody else. So, but let's have that conversation. And I think the EDA will be very interested that the Planning Commission wants to be involved in that discussion.
So should we do that at our next meeting?
We could, yeah.
All right. Why don't we,
Yeah. Why don't you and I talk first, and we could maybe just have a conversation with Andrea, who's the chair of the EDA, just to kind of, develop how we want to go about talking about it. That work?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And to figure out the funding for it. That's important.
Yeah, right.
Okay, good. Anything else that on anybody's mind, planning wise? I'm just excited that, with this anticipation of this ballot question passing, that we have people who are already interested in I think it's great.
I don't know how many you've heard, but, obviously we have the one that has already put in an application. But after having a discussion with Fred this week, there's a few others looking as well. It's, so a lot of people are kind of, from what I'm under the impression of, is that there are several waiting to see what happens next week.
I think that's probably correct. Yeah. I think that's going to be a big inflection point.
Well, get out there and vote, everybody.
For people, because most of the people.
All right, Jack, I think, did you quit talking, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if we lost you or not. All right. Correspondence. We have in your packet the April report from Shannon. So Jack, did council take away, did they waive the zoning, the land use, whatever fee for like April through October this year?
I believe it's, yeah, I'm not sure if it was through October, but it's through the whole summer. But yes.
Okay, good.
It didn't start till May because I went to put one in for myself at the end of April. They said you might as well wait till May 1st.
Gotcha.
But it is in effect now.
Yeah. Thank you, James.
Good.
Yeah.
Anybody know what's going in at 81 South High Street? Shannon.
As of right now, they just wanted to return it to grade. They may at some point bring it back to a single family dwelling. But the property was so dilapidated, they did not want to leave it up any longer. It, it's one of those that there could be other development that goes on there, but I don't foresee anything in the near future, but it definitely was ready to come down. It was more of a cost for them to continue trying to maintain the property than it was for them to tear it down.
And who owns that? Do you remember?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Do you remember? Oh, it's Gobin owns it. I wondered who
Yeah.
owned it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's it for correspondence. Shannon, do you want to go over the zoning officer's report?
Wasn't too much. It was pretty, pretty sharp slowdown for the month. I think lumber prices affected a lot of people. The decks that were in sheds that were coming in are quickly stopping. But I believe you'll start to see it pick up again here with regular, any commercial stuff and everything else coming in. The convenience store obviously is up and running now. They have their soft opening. They still need to finish the lot striping and paving out there, and they are aware of that it's supposed to be done over the spring months. 24 Shepherds moving along at a good pace. Not too much else going on. I mean, there's enough going, some active permits, but there's not a lot of new things going on. Sidewalk being repaired, I think when I was going over one of the earlier meetings that you guys had that I missed, I had you had asked why a lot of times the permits were required. Are you still interested?
Yes.
So, okay. Typically land use is required just to determine the setbacks at minimum, to make sure that they are building something that is not within a setback. Then from there, if I'll determine whether or not they need to do more than just a land use permit, such as when they get over 1,000 square feet of a habitable space that's outside, they would need to go to a building code agency to get inspections for proper footers and to determine that it is built to code. And then if it's a lot of people don't like when I make them get a permit for decking or windows. Decking we only do if it's attached to the primary dwelling. If it's a floating deck, you don't need a permit. But if it's over 30 inches in height, then you do again, because now you're at a hazard level. But if you're attached to the house, you need to, because it's attached to your primary dwelling, we have to make sure that you're getting permitting, because it's the same, we want to know that you're not damaging the house and that it's protected and hooked up the right way. Windows, if you're getting replacement windows, you don't, if they're exact same size, you don't need to do anything at all. But if you're changing your structure at all, such as your header over the window or your framework, then you need to have permitting so we can have it inspected to make sure that the structure stays safe. And that's where a lot of it comes in. There's not ever a time that I'm out looking for anything other. Whenever, if I go around, I'm just looking for construction that's going on that should be permitted. And then I'm visiting the sites that are out there that have ongoing permits. There's not, I don't think, anybody out to make them get a permit when I don't feel they need to. It's the fencing permits are to make sure that we give them that we have it on record that there's a fence there. And to let them know what the height limitations are in certain areas. And then also that if they build, we try to recommend that if they build up to the property line, that they need to keep it back a foot or two, but we can't force them to, so that they can maintain both sides. A lot of times you'll see them build right up to the property line whenever they're on a corner, which is fine, or whenever they're in conjunction with a neighbor. But I've seen numerous times where people put up a fence right up to the property line, but then the neighbor moves out, another one moves in, they don't get along, and now he has to take his fence down just to paint the other side of the fence because he's not allowed on that guy's property.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of little things like that, but it's definitely needed. But that's a good kind of scenario of what happens a lot with those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other than that, because it was such a slow month, I don't have anything else.
Okay, well, does anybody else have anything for the good of the order? I'm just gonna read that Sally, Matt, Troy, and Shannon, if you need them, will get together and do the zoning ordinance thing.
Yeah,
Bobby and I-
I'll coordinate that.
Thank you. Bobby and I will get the minutes together that we need for the next meeting. And anything else for the good of the order? Can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Nice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion to adjourn.